Folks, today's program is sponsored by my favorite sponsor, sunsetlakesabadeh.com. Use the code LEFTISBEST. You get 20% off. What do you get 20% off on? Well, you get 20% off on these new gels that they got, but you can also get 20% off of tinctures that help you sleep, tinctures that keep you relaxed, tinctures that taste like orange or mint or original flavor, tinctures in different doses, smokables, pre-rolls, keef, fudge, coffee, salves, and lotions. All sorts of Sabadeh products, and they are all third-party tested. They are grown without pesticides. They use integrated pest management. They use regenerative farming practices that they developed in conjunction with the University of Vermont. And this company is, they have great business practices, mostly $20 an hour minimum wage, except for those who own part of the company. Because it's also a mostly owned, employee-owned company. Folks, it was a late night last night. Also, they are great movement partners. They've donated thousands of dollars to strike relief funds, to refugee resettlement, to carceral reform, to give directly. They've involved with mutual aid in the wake of the floods up in Vermont and given money to food pantries. Just a great all-around company, a great all-around product. They are longtime fans of the show. That's why Left is Best is their coupon code, 20% off, sunsetlakesabadeh.com. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. And now time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, July 19th, 2024. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Jeet Heer, national affairs correspondent for The Nation magazine, on a rather busy week in news. Also on the program, if you tuned in and watched our coverage last night, you know Trump bungles the biggest show of his life, arguably, and ends a xenophobic, racist, fascist convention with a dollop of ramble.
No unity there?
Unified rambling. Joe exit seems now to be a matter of when, not if, and then replaced by whom. ICJ offers its first advisory opinion ever that Israel's occupation violates international law. Meanwhile, in Gaza, health ministries and Israeli officials begin to detect spreading polio.
Horrible.
Polls show Trump's national lead over Biden grows marginally. 6 in 10 Democrats think Harris would make a good president. Meanwhile, Delta ramp workers ramp up their unionization drive. DNC Rules Committee meets today to set an August 1st vote for its nominee prior to the convention, incidentally. Federal Appeals Court blocks the remainder of Biden's student debt relief program. On the same day, Biden announces another plan to relieve $1.2 billion of debt for 35,000 public sector workers. Houthis claim a drone strike near the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv that kills one. Israel skips its ceasefire talks with Hamas. Internationally, a huge outage from Windows-based computers. Like half of all Windows-based computers just fall apart, essentially. And Just Stop oil activists in UK get 4 and 5 years in prison for planning a peaceful protest.
Jeez.
All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. It is
Casual Friday.
Casual Friday. Are we getting some sound issues on my mic? I'm getting reports of people having a sound issue on my mic.
Oof.
Hopefully, we've got that fixed.
You guys still hearing it?
All right, we'll deal with it. Just check on this, please. Meanwhile, I just want to say just a couple of words about this before we get into the program. Tomorrow will mark 4 years, the 4-year anniversary, I guess, of Michael Brooks' passing. As is a practice that we started last year, we're going to be celebrating his birthday rather than his death. So we will, have some programming dedicated to Michael August 13th. A week like this, you can't help, if you are familiar with the program, or if you're one of us, can't help but think about how Michael would have reacted to some of this, and how just sitting through the RNC with him would have been pretty hilarious. Although last night was pretty depressing. Regardless,
yeah, he could have been here depressed with us.
So rest in peace, Michael. I don't know if, we would have all liked you to be around for this. I'm not sure how much you would have enjoyed it, although I imagine some of it.
He would have hated it. It would have been his 40th birthday, which he would not have liked.
Oh, he would have been
Oh,
upset
wow.
It would
about
have been tough for him.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things I do, and we'll talk about this on his birthday, that I do regret is that he wouldn't have the opportunity to really start to feel the pain of growing old.
Age, yeah.
Yeah, because he used to give me so much shit about it. And at one point, you start to catch up. All right, let's move on. And again, we'll be talking more about Michael on his birthday, August 13th. We tried to figure out how we sort of encapsulate what happened last night in a clip. And so we're going to do basically 3 or 4 quick clips. First off, last night, a strike-busting, N-word using literal K-fab artist came out and talked about how much Donald Trump meant to him. Or really, how much he meant to everybody else, and then slightly also mentioned that Trump was important to him.
Brother.
Here is Hulk Hogan, who incidentally also, Peter Thiel was on this stage 8 years ago tonight, in the same night. Hulk Hogan, of course, was literally carrying Peter Thiel's water when they shut down Gawker through his lawsuit. But here's Hulk Hogan.
But what happened last week when they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next president of the United States? enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
Okay. A couple of things strike me on this. First of all, I don't know who they is that tried to kill Donald Trump. Also, this is the night of unity. And I think like one of the objectives of the Trump campaign certainly is you don't want to remind people what they didn't like about Donald Trump. The idea of Trumpomania and Trumpomaniacs rolling over people in the country, I think is probably not what they wanted.
Do you think that Hulk Hogan ripping open his shirt is the kind of thing that suburban moms are going to flock to the polls for? Isn't that the demographic they're most worried about? It was very incongruous. They also, did Dana White come on before or after Hulk Hogan? I think after. Yeah. This is a guy who's on video slapping his wife.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really not sending their best here. But it just seemed like who are going to be the people that hype up the emperor sufficiently? That's what the whole night was geared towards.
Now, it wasn't just a series of wrestling and fighting figures, although there was, like I say,
a plethora.
A lot of them. I mean, at least two, right? Linda McMahon was on too. So there was at least two representatives from fake fighting and one then real fighting. That guy also, like Emma said, also slapped his wife around on video. I'm sure
in
it was
public.
I'm sure the one time that he ever slapped her it just happened to be in
at
public.
like a concert in a press box.
But be that as it may, there was also a touching moment where Donald Trump, having contacted the family of the man who died at his rally for the first time, I think.
After getting bad press about it, Biden, to his credit, reached out immediately.
Like Saturday,
well,
I think, or not Saturday. What's today? Friday. I think he reached out for the first time on Thursday. He made a real effort to show how much he appreciated this man.
His life, selflessly acting as a human shield to protect them from flying bullets. He went right over the top of them and was hit. What a fine man he was.
They like human shields now?
They had wheeled out his fireman's coat and outfit and helmet.
So here's Trump walking over to it.
Great view of the hair.
So intricate.
The smear.
And he hugs it and kisses the helmet on the back.
So grandfatherly. That's what they were trying to portray all night.
And then, to be fair, it wasn't the only kiss that Donald Trump gave. Here is going back to Hulk Hogan's thing. Donald Trump, while he slept through his son and his vice president's speech the other night, tonight he was much more animated when Hulk Hogan was speaking, and
his true love,
and showed him the same affection that he did the helmet of the man who passed away protecting his family at Donald Trump's rally. I don't know what to...
Love you, Hunky.
You know, the fist bump is not conveying enough of my love, Hulk.
It's like he feels comfortable showing Hulk his love, but he has to withhold for all of his children because that's the only way you discipline them.
We will play the Tiffany clip later in the
my
program.
God.
It's really fantastic.
She went in for a hug and
All
he
right.
just shoved her to the side.
We're going to get to Jeet in just a moment. First, a word on from our sponsor today. I saw that we had the sponsor, and I went over there and I took my Nutrafol because I forget to do it. It is a great reminder, folks. I'd mentioned this the other day when we talked about it. years ago, Nutrafol was interested in sponsoring this program. I asked Michael at the time if he was interested in taking it. He wasn't. And I'm like, I don't need to worry about my hair health or thinning. And then about a year or so ago, I started like feeling like the half of my head is starting to thin. I don't know what that's about. But I started taking Nutrafol over a year ago, and I have seen a huge difference. And it doesn't have to be just about thinning. It's just about having healthy hair. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand. It has over 1 million people who've seen thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are physician formulated. They use 100% drug-free ingredients. Their patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sex life. Many supplements rely on ingredient studies. In other words, they look at what the combination of the stuff they have in there. They say, oh, somebody did a study on this element, vitamin E or whatever's in there. But Nutrafol has done clinical tests with their final formulations combined. And so you know that these tests show their efficacy. In a clinical study, 84% of men showed improvements in their hair after 6 months taking Nutrafol's men hair growth supplements. You can take their hair wellness quiz on Nutrafol.com/men for a personalized hair health plan based upon your specific root causes. That is not a pun. I didn't come up with that. It's in the script. With Nutrafol, building a hair growth routine is simple. You purchase online. No prescription or doctor's visit is needed. They have free shipping and automated deliveries, ensure you'll never miss a day. Also, it helps if they're a sponsor and it reminds you
exactly
to go take it. But I'm usually pretty good about it. You will see results within 3 to 6 months. Take the first step towards achieving your hair growth goals. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription. Free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men. Enter the promo code TMR. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/men, promo code TMR. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code TMR. We're going to take a quick break. In a moment, Jeet Heer, national affairs correspondent for The Nation magazine. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigland on the Majority Report. With us now, returning to the program, always a pleasure, Jeet Heer, national affairs correspondent for The Nation. Jeet is in a remote, secret location, as you can see. Maybe.
Let me just say that I have both Dick Cheney and the bones of Al Capone, or perhaps Al Capone and the bones of Dick Cheney. I cannot verify.
Wow, we couldn't verify your whereabouts yesterday or Sam's when Lou Dobbs croaked. So this is kind of a theme here. Where
no, Bob Newhart, Lou Dobbs, all the Giants.
You're busy over there at The Nation.
I was trying to revive Newhart. That's why I wasn't available. Matt, just turn that monitor. Turn the far one. Oh, you can see. Okay. All right. So, Jeet, we got a lot to talk about. Let's start with the RNC.
I think this was a slow news week. I don't know if you want to talk about movies, TV shows.
The
what's not-
assassination attempt of Trump is old news now. By this
That's right.
point, it's
Yeah.
like okay.
I mean, I mean, I don't know that there's really that much to talk about in terms of the assassination attempt, except in the context of how it was used last night, but also in the fact that we still have not seen a medical report on what happened. Now, I'm not suggesting any type of conspiracy here, but it's odd because you would expect, the doctors said I was that the bullet that ripped through my ear could have caused some type of it's a little bit less dramatic than you would have anticipated had that, but be that as it may, there was still an assassination attempt. Somebody died. 2 other people were,
No.
hurt. But,
but I mean, it's interesting. I mean, despite the fact that there were these 2 deaths, and I believe 2 other people were in critical condition. It's been basically turned into like a convention gimmick. You remember the flip-flops that Republicans wore during when John Kerry was nominated? They wanted to mock him as a flip-flop.
And the purple bandage.
The purple bandage, yeah. With the bandage, yeah. Now they have like these little band-aids. I mean, like it's kind of astonishing. Because I actually do think like Trump actually was almost assassinated. Like if it's just like my understanding is of just an inch difference, like we'd be having a very different conversation. But like such is the nature of Trump and his party that they basically turned it into a merchandising thing. You can get T-shirts of Trump raising his fist. You have the slogan "Fight, fight, fight," and somebody's making a hell of a lot of money off of band-aids.
Yeah, I really wish I had the ambition to get in on that type of merchandise.
The shirts were up immediately.
But all right,
let me just say that I've invested my entire family fortune on coconuts, so I need the news to go a certain way. But
You and me both here, Jeet.
all right, before we get to that, because I do want to get to that. What was your sense of the RNC? Because this was, I mean, after I was in like a haze last night after we stopped coverage, which incidentally we stopped before he stopped talking. Yeah. I mean, aside from the speech being a complete rambling mess, it was an incredibly bizarre. And we only did live coverage of nights 3 and 4. I watched night 2. And it was different than any other one I've ever seen. Like, we had moments in the past where you had Clint Eastwood, and that was bizarre. But it stood out because it was bizarre within the context of it. The whole feel of this convention was utterly bizarre to me. And it was, I mean,
yeah, I want to
not
get
just from there's more almost like cultural critique here than political.
Well, I mean, Trump is a cultural phenomenon even more than a political one. But I think that one of the interesting things is like previous conventions are like party conventions. So you honor the great members of the party, Mitt Romney, John McCain, not going to do that. You honor the great heroes of the party. We're the party of Lincoln, of Teddy Roosevelt, of Eisenhower. You didn't really see a lot of that. This is a party without a past. And without any other like prominent members, this is a party of Trump. It's like what made it unique is that it was just like 4 days of Trump, and various approaches to Trump. Like there are different factions of Trumpism now that want to claim different sides of him. But like that is kind of unique. Like usually political conventions are about unifying the party, but both around a candidate, but also giving a sense of party identity. The only party identity the Republicans now have is Trumpism.
Yeah, I think that describes it fairly well. Like I was struck by the fact that Trump was there for a couple of nights in sort of like a luxury box, and it had that feel of like when you watch these movies about Caesar and the Colosseum, and everyone coming to pay homage to Caesar or the king or something. There was a weird it was weird.
Yeah. And it's actually kind of interesting, like which of the ones he was like. There are certain points like Hulk Hogan and more of the entertaining type people that he was very excited by, and there are other people like I have to say JD Vance, where Trump was kind of falling asleep. So like Caesar both needs his rest and his entertainment.
Yeah.
There was a quality like when you saw his reaction to Hulk Hogan versus there was a quality of like what is it like when the princess would throw out her napkin onto the field,
a favor for
and
the
the knight would ride over and hand her
Yes.
the thing or something.
Yeah.
What? Go ahead.
Oh no! I mean, just like the whole entertainmentization. There's this other person, I forget her name now, but she's like coming out of, I think, sort of influencer rap world or whatever. And Trump was very
Amber
excited.
Rose.
Amber Rose.
Yeah. Trump was very excited by her and Hulk Hogan. Less excited, I would say, by the Republican politicians advocating for the policies that Trump is supposedly going to have.
Well, that was the thing too. I went back and I looked at like the list of speakers, and there was almost sort of a reversal in terms of where those people went this time, even from like 2016. Like this was more 2016 than 2020 in some respects, but it was almost a reversal of where the sort of celebrity stuff people were loaded up. Like he had Fran Tarkenton in 2016, who was a football player, and people were like, a football player. But now it was just all wrestling, which is interesting because that's completely kayfabe. But there were no sort of like like you say, no party dignitaries. This was like a timeless convention that seemed completely distinct from any notion of republicanism.
Well,
I don't
can
even
I
think you
add
ever
to
heard
that?
like we're the party of Lincoln. You never even heard that there, and none of that.
Or the fact that none of the former presidential nominees for the Republicans were there. Mitt Romney wasn't there. Bush wasn't there. John McCain wasn't there either. But if you're not somebody who has bent the knee to Trump, you basically didn't show. They didn't even want you there. There's no like Republican dignity. Could you imagine if Hillary Clinton or Obama didn't show up to the DNC or make some sort of gesture towards it? It would be a huge story.
Yeah, the complete absence of the Bush family is also sort of, I think, worth noting. I mean, I mean, maybe they were there, but they were completely submerged.
Well, there are Bushes who have sort of bent the knee to Trump, but I think, and this is perhaps one of the few good things I'll say about Trump. He has complete contempt for the Bushes, and does not want them in his party. Except occasionally to kiss his ring. So of course, no. I mean, it really they've narrowed down the party to Trump, and it makes me think what's going to happen when Trump's not there anymore. Like it's the party has become this hollowed out, empty vacuum.
Let's talk about that because JD Vance is an interesting a figure here.
Out.
Well, the thing is that I think he provides a sort of a fresh sort of like target to campaign against, but also in my mind, he scares me more than any of the other potential picks that are out there, and it's basically because of Peter Thiel. Because, Bannon once said, I think about 6 to 8 months ago, maybe it was a year ago, Steve Bannon was saying like, we don't need Trump for Trumpism, that he's just the first guy through the door. And with JD Vance and all that Peter Thiel money and all that crypto money, Peter Thiel's ideology probably as well as many, as any, I should say. These are real hardcore authoritarian Straussians who really believe that they have a real ideological basis for why they should be, dictators, essentially. And there's a quality of like Donald Trump could be the appetizer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I mean, there's a couple of things to say about that. I think, like, in the wake of Trump, there was an attempt to do Trumpism without Trump, and have. But it's interesting that has largely been unsuccessful. Like usually candidates who like have the Trump message but aren't Trump. Like you can mention Kerry Lake, Blake Masters, who also got Peter Thiel money.
DeSantis,
Oz. Like they've all like kind of fizzled out. Now, Vance, there's two things. The Thiel money did help him get the nomination in Ohio, and once you got the nomination, Ohio's a pretty red state. It's very hard for anyone not named Sherrod Brown to like win in Ohio. And actually, Vance underperformed. He has the same problem of all the Trumpists without Trump. He actually underperformed what a Republican would normally do. So I don't necessarily know if he's like such a great like politician, but I do think he is exactly a great networker. He is part of that Thiel network, and he is the way in which the Thiel network combined with Project 2025 will try to remake American government. And it is like, the vision is essentially it's a Nietzschean Ubermensch vision. There's a few people who know how the world works. They should be in charge. Thiel has basically said, American democracy as a vehicle for my type of politics ran into trouble in once women got the vote.
That's almost like an explicit. That's almost a word for word quote.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Our vision of liberty, is it became obsolete once the franchise was expanded. Now, and it's hard to explain how much. Vance is a total chameleon, silly putty candidate who has always tried to emulate who's around them. So when he was at Yale, he did that sort of moderate Republican, never Trumpist thing, and then now he's around Thiel, and he's so much a Thielite. Thiel is a great fan of this very conservative philosopher René Girard, who's actually a very interesting theorist who has these ideas of sacrificial victims and mimetic imitation. But Girard was a strong advocate of Catholicism, and Thiel got Vance to read Girard, and then Vance converted to Catholicism. So basically, you have someone whose whole religious identity is based on his friendship with Peter Thiel, which is kind of an amazing thing. Who's could be the vice president of the United States, could be president of the United States.
Go ahead. No, there's this strand now in the Republican Party of this Catholic.
Well, it's been there for a long time. The Opus Dei stuff has been there for a long time.
But it feels resurgent in this way that they have a representative in Josh Hawley. Leonard Leo is is leading this movement in terms of funding it, and he's a super donor or whatever Clarence Thomas's buddy, I guess. So there is actual, I think, big money behind it, and if Thiel is endorsing that and Vance is endorsing it as well, that's a strand of theocrat that's a little bit different than what we've seen in terms of the Mike Pence evangelical side of things.
Oh, absolutely. And that's interesting because usually the Republican formula since the 70s has been that the evangelicals get the votes, they're in Congress, they run for president, and the hardcore Catholic theocrats. We're not talking about your neighborhood nun or priest here, or your uncle who goes to church. We're talking about people who have this very specific form of Catholicism that sees theocracy as a goal. You hid those people, kept them only for the judges. These are the people you put on the Supreme Court because you cannot win on that in America. And with J.D. Vance, I think they've decided, let's try to see if we can win on that in America. Let's see if we can not just control the Supreme Court, but then also have this same, Alito, Clarence Thomas, Amy Barrett Coney vision of the world, in the White House as well. That is a remarkable change because usually, they keep the presidency for the evangelical Protestants.
Right. It was all Bob Novak and Alito at the time.
Yeah.
And Kudlow, I think too, actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But what I think is really sort of, this moment and you touched on this, and I think this is the point, the takeaway for Vance is that the Trump part of Trumpism was really sort of the show, how do you get to this point? But Project 2025 and billionaire money is how you sort of lock it in structurally, and you don't need that type of showman at the top of the ticket to get to where you want to get to where Peter Thiel wants to get to. Trump is the sort of the key that opens the door, But once you get in there, once you're in the room, essentially, they're going to do the remodeling that's going to make it possible that door no longer needs a Donald Trump to be opened.
I think that's exactly right. Yeah, and I mean, it's also, you see that with the sort of changes, some of the changes that the courts have made, the sort of great expansion of presidential power. Basically presidential impunity, almost nearly absolute for whatever can be considered an official act. Like, imagine that with like Trump and Vance in the White House. Imagine the sort of overturning of the administrative state, the purging of the independent civil service. I mean, I think it is. And then I go back to that Thiel quote, right? Democracy is the great problem. But there are ways that you can overcome democracy in the American system, and I think that they have found their pathway.
Yeah, it's terrifying, and that terrifying notion is a perfect predicate for the next conversation that we're going to have about Joe Biden and the impetus to have him step down as the presumptive nominee. Last night, AOC did an hour-long Instagram stream sort of outlining where she's been on this. And you wrote about this in terms of like the progressives. I want to put that aside for a second, but that to me is one of the most interesting elements of this. But let's talk about the what's happening with Biden. It appears, and maybe part of it is being made to have us believe that it appears to be, because this is the way that people like this get jammed, that he is in the sort of like has passed through the denial stage and is in now the sort of like what are the conditions stage for me to step down. Just give me your sense of where we're at and what he's going to do now.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can even see it in. I don't think it's too much. It's not just based on pure speculation. You can see it in Biden's own rhetoric. Previously, he said, only the Lord Almighty could convince me to step down. And more recently, he's had this proviso. Well, if a medical doctor told me, it was necessary to step down, or if polling showed that I absolutely have no chance to win, then I would do it. But saying but those things haven't happened. But those things could very easily happen. Like, it's not a huge stretch to imagine. I could find you a doctor in 10 minutes that could speak to Joe Biden and tell him, Joe, you got to take it easy, for your own health. I don't think it's that difficult to find a proper doctor. In fact, I think it's more shocking that they find doctors who tell them to stay in. Nor is it that difficult. He has a lot of bad polling. I mean, this is one of the things, even before that debate performance, one of the things that really worried me in the last year was, I saw how the White House was using polling, and they were using it like a losing campaign, which is that they were constantly like denying the polling, cherry picking polls, and there still seem to be doing that. I mean, it seems like with the Pelosi visit, Pelosi went to him and said, Joe, you're going to lose this, and Biden was very defensive and said, no, I have polls that show it's still very close. And then Pelosi, being Pelosi, and I'm glad that she was in there, right? Because she demanded to see the polling. She demanded that he get the advisor on the phone who's been giving him the polling. And, she can run through the polling better than anyone. So the two conditions that he's saying, are very, I think they can be met, right? We can get a doctor. We can get more honest polls, right? So I do think, I don't want to be, you can never predict, right? And unfortunately, I mean, this is the thing. There's two Bidens. Joe Biden, the party functionary, I'm loyal to the party. I'll do what the party wants. If, Pelosi, Schumer, Obama say this, I got to do it. But there's also Joe Biden who imagines himself as being the stereotypical stubborn Irishman, with the chip on the shoulder and I'm the boy from Scranton that they always underestimated, and I'll show these hoity-toity hi-hats, I can beat them. So the real question to me is which Joe Biden wins, right? The political realist who realizes he needs the party to win, or the guy who has these fantasies that you knock me down and I get up. Which, if you think about it, even if you think that's true, And it's not really true in Biden's case. He's been knocked down, and he stayed knocked down for a while. Like he's run for president a couple of times and lost, right? But even if you accept that mythology, like that's no prediction that it's going to work this time. like it's just a personal myth.
I want to just add to to the second column of the duality of Biden. There was a piece by Ryan Grimm about 10 days ago, which I had missed up until like a couple of days ago, where he interviewed this guy, Dimitri Melhorn, who is, I guess, part of the Reid Hoffman, the LinkedIn, like that money, big money circuit. And Melhorn brought up something that was really interesting in my mind, is that you've got Biden, the Democratic establishment comes to him in 2016 and says, no, you can't run. Hillary's going to run. You can't do it. And you're not going to win in this instance. So we're going to go with Hillary. And then he sees that they were all wrong. Yeah. And the crap show that we get. I mean, it'd be a very different situation right now had Biden been president in 2016. And then in 2020, these people came to him and said, you can't win. Yeah, you know, you can't actually make it. And of course, he does end up winning. You know.
Well, no, okay. I grant you 2016. I think that Joe Biden
in I know where you're going with 2020. I'm talking at the beginning of the race because I think that he, you know, ended up like sort of boxing out maybe any other person who could have been the Biden in that that race, because ultimately those same people delivered him the nomination against Bernie Sanders.
Exactly. 2016, I think Biden has a really legitimate complaint. They should have let him run. He could have beaten Trump in that case. He would have interestingly triangulated between Bernie and Hillary, and got components of both positions. But in 2020, like he was actually floundering. Like let's remember those first three primaries. He was not doing well. He was only saved by that Democratic establishment that he's putting down now.
You might call them elites.
Well,
you might call them elites.
And actually, there's a very interesting interview with a centrist. It's interesting. Like now, we can all tell the truth. This
Adam Smith.
Adam Smith gave this interview. He basically admitted the truth that we all know, which is that Bernie was the presumptive nominee. He was on track to winning. They decided it can't be Bernie. They consolidated around Biden. They moved by hook and by crook to get everyone else out of the race and to bolster, prop up this man. So I think in both cases, both 2016, 2020, the establishment interfered in ways that were in the long run, not great for the party. But and I think Biden, he doesn't mention that, but he, at some level, he knows it's true. He knows it was Obama that got him that nomination.
Well, yes. No, I don't think it's a question of him resenting, at least in the way this telling is. It's more about trusting his own gut. You know what I mean? And of course, this guy's gut always tells him, I'm the one. I am the one who can do it.
Well, he's been running for president since the 1970s. I mean,
I have seen at least two of his. I saw the two. Believe me, I thought in 2020, I'm like, I've seen this guy just do nothing but lose, and he's going to lose again.
But that's the fundamental problem with the campaign is it's I, and that's what he says when he goes and does these media appearances. I'm the guy, I can do this, look at my record, backwards facing. And what last night showed with the RNC is that Trump's debate performance was horrible. It just they can't draw that contrast because Biden's was catastrophic. And it's not about the policies. That's the thing that I just have such a fundamental disagreement with AOC and Bernie on. The policies are really good. It's just the fact that people rightly think he cannot serve for another 4 years. And you can't make that case to the public without coming off like massive liars. That's the big problem that the Biden campaign has.
Yeah. Go into your take on AOC and the progressives. Like, what are they doing from your perspective? Did you happen to see her Instagram? Stream?
I did that.
Okay, so integrate that now, because there adds a little bit of knowledge to their motivation.
Sure. So my basic analysis all along was that the progressives, the left of the congressional left has a right analysis that it's not their job to get rid of Biden. That if they came out against Biden, this would be consolidate support for Biden among centrists. And in fact, I think as we just talked about, the centrists created this monster. It's their job to get rid of him, right? And if they did go against Biden, this would always be used against them that they were disloyal to a Democratic leader. Given that situation, why not?
And let me just emphasize that point. That's what the Latimer ran against Jamal Bowman on. I mean, exactly. For all the other talk, the ads that were really the most sort of like saturated were Jamal Bowman voted against Biden's plan A, B, C, D.
Yeah. And the squad knows it too. Cori Bush said 100% of the calls she's getting from her constituents are for Biden to drop out, but she's not saying that. She's walking that tightrope because she doesn't want that used against her in a primary race.
Exactly. So politically, it makes a lot of sense for them to do what they basically did, which is use this moment to leverage off of Biden and get him. And then I think it's actually politically important, and people don't understand that. But to have a Democratic president say, we're going to have national rent control. I'm president. To have Biden say, we're going to do Supreme Court reform and ethics in Supreme Court, that's big, and that's a marker, and this will affect the party's politics going on. So politically, I think it makes a lot of sense. But having said that, the AOC's other comments, she offers these political explanations. I think some of them are fair enough. I think she's right that the centrists who are and the donor class that are coming out against this, they don't want Kamala Harris. They want, you have people like Matt Iglesias, who's I think the mouthpiece for the big money people, saying, well, why don't we have Pete Buttigieg and Torres? Can you imagine that again? So I mean, I think she's right to be wary of the donor class interference of but I don't think that I think she's overestimating their power. I think if Joe Biden drops out and says very strongly, I'm dropping out, I release my delegates, but I've always had faith in Kamala Harris. She's my I endorse her, she would win, and there'd be no contest, right? No one would, I think, even challenge her in those circumstances. So, and I think that AOC's worries, some of them are legitimate, but she's kind of, she's doing a little bit of motivated reasoning of trying to justify this decision, which she knows is unpopular with among a lot of her constituents and a lot of her supporters of why are you propping up Biden? But she. I think,
but that's what I don't like about it, Jeet. Right? I don't like making that case when you know that 2/3 of Democrats want him to step aside. Yeah. Why is she aggressively making a case for him? The policy.
Well, I don't think she. I mean, I don't know how aggressive I would characterize.
An hour Instagram live defending his decision to stay in the race. Basically,
that's not what that.
I mean, it was in part right.
She was saying quite a bit that she didn't know. I mean, I think the thing that I took away from that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a big thing. She herself, and she's one of Biden's strongest supporters in the party right now, was basically opening the door for him exiting, right? Saying,
without a doubt.
Or I guess talking about the problems.
I think what I took from that was she also said a couple of times, and I think she's dancing around this, and I can understand why she is. She says, I think people underestimate Biden's strength with certain constituencies, which to me is also because she says it has to be Harris. There's no other way for it to happen except for Harris. Both, I think, from a perspective from a perfectly pragmatic perspective, which I happen to agree with, and maybe also as a defense against the sort of vagaries of the donor class that are coming in. But I think also in that critique is something unsaid. I mean, I think she was she was laying out a lot of stuff there. But when she talks about people underestimating and not understanding Joe Biden's support in certain particular areas, she mentioned older people. I think what the flip side of that coin is, there is a concern, I believe, which I don't think is an illegitimate concern, particularly in this era, that a black woman may have political liabilities that, and certainly, I think there's a strong case that Hillary Clinton was sui generis and that perhaps a different woman like, Elizabeth Warren could have won in 2016. But we shouldn't kid ourselves. The fear that Kamala Harris, who is not necessarily a stellar politician, that the fear that there's going to be swing voters, to the extent that those people exist, are going to be reluctant to vote for a black woman. There's certainly, I don't think that's completely unfounded. It's also something that I would be surprised if AOC is going to articulate that as a woman of color herself.
Sure. But I would also say, there's a couple of things. I think once you have Dobbs' decision and abortion on the issue, the value of a woman as being the valiance changes a lot. The second thing is if we were going back last fall and Biden dropped out, would Harris be my candidate? I think she has some real problems, but the choice now is really between Biden and Harris, and Biden cannot. He has no linguistic competence. He is the fundamental trait of being able to form syntactically coherent sentences. He can't do that, and that's an important quality to have if you're running for president. And she has that in spades. I've been listening to her speeches lately. I think she can do a real barn burner.
She's definitely improved.
Yeah, she can do real barn burners, and and also all the polling that we now have says in the swing states, she's polling better than Biden, especially if you have to be concerned about American racism and sexism, Kamala and a cracker makes sense, right? Let's have Kamala and a white Southern guy. Am I allowed to say that? Am I going to get in trouble with this, Sam?
Hate speech.
Well, Emma said
Jeet.
Bashir, right?
I think
Bashir or Cooper.
But it's Bashir or Cooper, I feel like. And if they're gonna, if they're that concerned about her being a black woman, which I find to be a self-defeating argument, I think the country's ready. I do.
I think so too. But also all the polling shows, if it's her and a white guy, it's much better than Biden Harris right now. So
pick generic white guy.
Right.
Right.
And I will also say, I don't think, particularly with, 3.5 months left in the campaign, the Republicans do not have the time to develop a nuanced way of saying that she is a black woman and we're not going to have that. They're going to go right into DEI territory, and people are going to go, whoa, wait a second.
Oh, yeah. That's actually the underrated thing. They will actually go very racist. And that will polar, and then I think Democrats are legitimately losing black votes, and this could actually change that very quickly. And also, the thing is, both Trump plus Vance, we didn't talk about this with Vance. That guy has a lot of weird gender politics. I think that
weird gender politics. Well, he's coming from that like Tucker Carlson, patriarchy. This is trad dad shit or whatever they're calling it.
He's constantly talking about how cat women, these single women who aren't having children are ruling America and ruining America. And I gotta say, if they unleash that stuff, the Democrats will win, because the Republicans are not capable of being normal. They will attack. They'll come against Taylor Swift and say and they will totally lose the millions of Americans who think a woman can do something other than get married and have 10 kids.
So first of all, his wife, Kamala Harris, is also half Indian, and it'll be interesting to see if JD Vance can navigate that racism with his wife being also, I believe she's Indian. If I'm I don't.
South Asian,
And also, either way, she clerked for Kavanaugh and Roberts. How is he going to get in a bind in terms of talking about career women and staying in the home? And I dare them to bring up the fact that Kamala Harris has made the choice not to have children. I want them to bring that up, because that's a very easy way for her to talk. I don't know if it was a choice or if she was unable to do so, but still, if they're gonna go in that misogynist route, it's the easiest way to bring up reproductive rights and women's health care and how personal it is. I think there's a lot of trap doors with her as the candidate. That's my feeling. Yeah.
We should also add that the the negatives that are the sort of like the ones that I think people are most nervous about, if they're nervous about Harris in that respect, because I get texts like, but doesn't it need to be a white guy type of thing? Those are already sort of like front and center. When we look at her polling right now, and frankly, this is true of all the other people that Biden's polling is put against, they're not candidates. Like, they haven't been campaigning for however many months. Like, presumably, if her negatives are completely, identity based, she only has an upside, because it's not like people are going to find out, wait a second, I didn't realize that she was a woman, of color. I didn't know that until
and she
now.
can drive turnout. Like, the thing about what the RNC made super clear to me last night is, like Hillary when she was the candidate in 2016, there's nothing, you can't rebrand Trump as kindly grandfather. Everyone already has opinions about Donald Trump. Biden, he's too old. That's the opinion, and it's not changing. We live in a very different media environment where we're so saturated and so connected all the time. Narratives get locked in way earlier in election cycles now. Kamala Harris is an opportunity disguised as a crisis, in my view, because people don't know enough about her, and then she can excite people by connecting her identity to the issues. That's the opportunity I think that's in front of us, but is Biden not going to endorse her? That's maybe the number one thing that came out of the AOC stuff for me was she may have fears that, I don't know, Biden's not interested in endorsing Kamala Harris, which would be, I think, a disaster. I don't know what you think about that, Jeet.
Well, I mean, like I said, there's two Bidens. There's the scrappy little guy from Scranton who is too full of himself and thinks he's essential. But there's the party functionary and who kind of knows that any future he has. And I thought it was interesting. One of the donors said, if he doesn't do the right thing, there's never going to be a Biden presidential library. There will be no Biden legacy. Yeah. I think that he has to realize, and no one's going to look after the Biden family. Ever again. So I think that Biden on some gut level realizes his whole identity is with the party, and he's a party player. I think Harris is. I mean, if he's worried about his legacy, he's got to promote his own vice president. Otherwise, he looks like, wait, did you make a mistake when you picked her as your vice president? I mean, she is where she's at because of him, and so. I mean, but with that said, Jen O'Malley Dillon was on Morning Joe today and said he's not going anywhere. Yeah, but But I mean,
and Chuck Todd said there could be a delegate revolt if that's the case. I saw yesterday.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we can do this the hard way, or he can do this the easy way.
Well, the thing is that the party, I mean, Biden has this core group of inner circle, which is very small. There's basically his family and a few Delaware cronies that he's known for 50 years. Whether those people can I have to believe that Pelosi, Obama, Schumer, and Jeffries have a little bit more clout than, the people Biden plays poker with in Delaware.
I just heard that the First Lady has canceled a trip to Michigan, and Kamala Harris is heading to Wisconsin. So,
well, actually, there's one good thing is, I mean, there's a reporting now that the family is kind of also at the acceptance stage. I mean, I think the family is really the last barrier, and whatever deal they have to make. Does that mean
that Hunter's gotten is going to get the pardon in December?
Welcome to the next ambassador to Colombia. Under the Harris administration, Hunter Biden.
Jeet Heer, always a pleasure. We will link to your pieces on all of these questions and more. Thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
It was great to be on.
Bye-bye.
Jeet, thank you.
Oh God.
Jeet is so underrated with his one-liners. He always has 3 or 4 when he comes on the show.
I think that'd be great. Inspired choice for a diplomatic corps. Also, people who didn't listen last night, we do have a few new additions to the soundboard.
Oh yeah, you should explain this.
This is the coconut bonk, and this is Emma's edition.
I'm staying in the race.
I'm staying in the race.
I mean, you really did have a sense last night that the door being so opened to Biden leaving gave more oxygen to people being able to say Trump is a rambling old, like honestly, like you didn't
Yes.
feel as self-conscious pointing that out when you had in the back of your head that Biden may not be here on Monday.
Well, because he's lost a lot of steps too, Donald Trump. He was not
And
making any
it was
freaking
evident in the
sense.
debate too.
It was evident in the debate, but you can't draw that contrast because Biden is like crapping his pants.
Everything's relative.
Yeah, I mean that video of him getting into the car the other day, like, I hesitate to use the terms like elder abuse because I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, but his family really needs to take a long look in the mirror and say, like, what are we doing to our, patriarch who we clearly worship here? Or do you worship the power more, or do you worship your father and grandfather? It's insane.
I really think that idea that, like, that in 2016 he listened to all these people and made what is a big political sacrifice, right? I mean, you've been
Yeah.
VP for 8 years. You've been desperately wanting to be president for God knows how many years, decades. Your estimation of yourself is something that, none of us can really appreciate, like that level of complete narcissism. And he steps down because all these people tell him, all the experts tell him that he can't win and that Hillary is the only one who can win. And it's the opposite.
Yeah,
and so,
and he had a legitimate gripe there. I don't really care about his entitled attitude.
but I'm
about
not saying
it.
it's a
And
gripe.
he's been president.
But
so
let me make
cool.
this clear. I'm not saying it's a gripe.
You're saying it's a
had gripe.
mentality.
I'm saying that, like, in his mind, it is like the idea that people are coming at him is indication he should do the opposite.
I'm sure that's like how he views himself. But is that delusion going to win out in like the face of all of the party leaders coming out and
I hope
standing
not.
against him? That would be a level of narcissism that rivals Donald Trump, if that's the case.
MJS 617 says, Sam, there's a whole conversation going on at Blue Sky about the dangers of replacing Biden as it relates to the Supreme Court and their ability to write after the election results based on a technicality. Thoughts? This was, I thought, the weakest argument that AOC was making last night. Now, I do think that there's an argument that the nomination process should happen before the Ohio deadline, because there is enough gray area in that, in that Ohio law. I just happen to think that they should be nominating Harris. But the idea that this provides more bites at the apple for the Supreme Court only needs one nibble at the apple, and they will have it. They will have it regardless of who the candidate is. They'll have it if it's Biden. They'll have it if it's Harris. They'll have it if it's whomever.
That's
so
part of-
that to me is the weakest argument.
No, but that's part of the motivation of saying that we can't run him because the risk is too great. Like Donald Trump, if he gets reelected and the Republicans would be taking back the Senate in that scenario, Alito and Thomas will retire immediately, and he'll put someone on there who's like 39 years old. And then it's conservative control of the Supreme Court for that time. So, like, I just don't like she's not making a pragmatic argument in that instance. The ones who are trying to, it may be donor driven to a degree, but the donors are concerned that he can't win in the same way that, like, random Democrats, a majority of Democrats are concerned that he can't win. And yeah. So
complaining about the donors when they happen to align with the majority of the people, like, maybe let's pick a different time to really make this shadow party argument.
Her argument is that those donors don't want Harris either. And that and to some extent there's also sort of like it's a warning. I mean, politically speaking, I think what they've done is good. I think it's great to have a sitting president on record, Democratic president, saying that we should have national rent control.
We agree on that.
Yes. And I think, like, the value of them being on another side of this, I think is minimal to us. like from a progressive standpoint.
I mean, I think
I don't
it's
think-
predicated on if Biden wins or drops out or loses
Right.
or not. Because
But
like,
it's so clear.
I
that-
prefer the Tlaib method of this is your guys' problem and I'm not going to be responsible for it, frankly.
Yeah, but it was the engagement by Bernie and AOC that got that rent control statement, that got the Supreme Court reform proposal, that got get rid of medical debt. Because if Harris comes in and her job is going to be, I'm going to finish the job, because no one has a problem with the job. If she picks up that mantle from Biden and says, I'm going to finish the job, all of a sudden we have three things on that agenda. Are they going to happen this time? Probably not. It took them 50 years to get rid of Dobbs. But
it's on the table.
it's on the table.
But
I hope that happens, but that says Biden drops out. If he stays in and he's talking about this stuff and gets swamped by like 370 electoral college votes, like then it doesn't. I don't know what good it did to their project.
Well, but the problem is that it's up until that point, Sam. We're in agreement. But does she need to go to bat on Instagram Live for young voters who, by the way, are more energized about Harris? See her as a leader of the party going forward, and basically tell them, don't believe your lying eyes. What's the value in that? And say that it's donor driven. It's gaslighting.
I just don't.
It's not
your
donor driven.
characterization of what she was saying is I just don't think is the case. I mean, she's sitting there saying that. Over and over again, she's saying this is about who we think can win, and she said, I don't care who the candidate is. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to win. I don't think that we should be talking negatively about the chances and saying it's guaranteed we're going to lose in July. She's saying skepticism about the arguments out there. She's not saying anything.
It's not explicit, but that's what she's.
Her emphasis is this is an elite-driven thing.
Yes.
And it's just that the elites finally got on the page of everybody else.
Yeah.
And
no, but she doesn't say that second part.
She should.
Oh yeah, she did. She said this is an argument I was saying we should have had a year ago.
Well, I know, but
But you should have had it a year ago then. Why didn't you?
But it's Democratic voters. I don't like the emphasis now. It's Democratic voters. It's a majority of independents. It's a majority of Democrats who want him to step aside.
Yeah.
Why are we framing it as if it's some elites? That's what the Biden campaign.
Because
she's acting like a Biden surrogate by making that
Cory
point.
Bush said 100% of the calls she's got from constituents were for
Yes.
Biden to step aside.
Yes, but then she stops short of saying he should drop out because she's doing the politically smart thing for
Right.
herself right now. AOC's going over the top.
Well, we have a disagreement on it.
Yeah, okay.
All right. We're going to take a break. Head into the. Who was it? Was it DeSantis? They don't even know what a woman is.
Yes.
We haven't even played that yet.
No, we got to play that. We've got a lot of clips of some of the lowlights of this bizarre RNC that took place for 4 days in Milwaukee. No word if who Trump is blaming for his speech. I wonder if we're going to hear that he was on painkillers. Like if they're going to have to sort of like backpedal, do the same thing that Biden did after the debate. It's
That
gonna
would be
pretty
funny.
funny. Had a cold. I was been traveling all over the place.
Got a code from Tiffany.
We will play the clip of Tiffany getting absolutely snubbed. Yeah.
It's kind of a metaphor for her whole life, unfortunately.
Might need to do a trigger warning for some people.
Do you have an absent father? Don't tune into the fun half.
Also, we should say I've mentioned this Instagram account, but in studio, Infinite Jest with us from the what?
That's the David Foster Wallace book.
Jazz.
Infinite Jazz. Jeez. Oh, sorry.
Say, is David Foster
That's
Wallace?
why. That's why the other
Right.
day I said Infinite Jest, and you looked at me. I'm like, wait,
I was thinking of the book.
it's
Yeah.
David Foster Wallace.
Resurrected.
Well, first off, you could do worse than reading Infinite Jest. Although I would say take some time. Be
Breaking
ready.
news: a white man likes David Foster Wallace.
There you go. It's really more like a Gen Xer.
It is a very Gen X book.
It was
Matt
a very
Christman-
Gen X.
Yeah.
Matt Christman's done some good breakdowns of
It's a
of
good- yeah,
Infinite
yeah.
Jest. Emma's being a hater.
I'm being a hater just for fun.
But on Instagram, Infinite Jazz. Some great on-the-ground reporting from the West Bank. There's a story today that the Israelis have shut down the hours, or I should say decreased the hours in which the checkpoints are being operating, and it's causing water shortages in the West Bank now. But it's Infinite _ Jazz, right? We will put a link to that in the YouTube and podcast description. Some great writing, and also is there a Substack? Is it? Yeah. So you can find. We'll put the link to the Substack as well. Folks, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you not only get the free half free of commercials, but you get the fun half too. And you get to I Am the Show. And you allow the show to survive and thrive. Things are a little slow today with the synapses. After 2 nights of that RNC.
And you all thought I was dead, and I was down on there, and I got up, and you thought it was over for this country, but I thought I need to give you all a message. Anyway.
Also, Just Coffee, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee and hot chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off, get the Majority Report blend. Emma, ESVN.
We spoke and previewed a bit about the my synapses. The Olympics. We talked about that. We talked a little bit about soccer and some people in sports like Charles Barkley saying Biden passed the torch. It's a slow time, but we had some fun. YouTube.com/ESVN show. It's the off season, and I just don't follow baseball. That's the reality.
I went to a Yankees game the other week with some friends. Since they added that pitch clock thing, I kind of don't like it because I liked how lazy baseball games were in person. It's probably better for the TV product, but it's weird how fast it gets going in person now. But
what's the average game now time?
It seemed a lot faster.
They cut it down, I think, by a half hour was the reading that. The reporting I remember, but again, I really don't follow baseball much. So.
At least for October of late October of last year, it dropped to 2 hours and 40 minutes in the first year of the pitch clock.
Yeah, it's probably better for TV, like I said. But Left Reckoning, Darn and Noor talked with David about climate. Patreon.com/Left Reckoning to get access to that.
See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks, 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Anarchy. Alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boy is back. And the alpha males are back.
Just wanna degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it to my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ Danner.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Danner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense.
You see white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males.
Psych. Fuck them. Snowflake says what? What? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back, 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 back. And the Africans are black, 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 black African. And the alpha males are black, 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 black. And the Africans are back, 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 back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100.
Can't knock the hustle.
Come on, fuck 'em, fuck 'em. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday. Happy birthday to me, Jew boy.
I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back, back. Africans are black, black. Alpha males are black, black. Africans are back, back.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy, 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 pussy.
JJC's really.
I'm staying in the
I'm
race.
staying in the race.
I was on Instagram Live last night.
This is the most crotchety Biden has ever sounded.
Truly.
JJC.
Like a prospector.
JJC says.
Jeez.
God. Folks, this is what it's going to be like today because
My favorite drop
we
of
were in this office,
I'm
like,
losing my mind.
You basically lived here.
Yeah.
if we were a Yahtzee, none of us would have been coming in the office
Yeah,
today.
right?
You get that like 12-hour turnaround. I don't know which one we should do more right now. Whether we should do let's do Tiffany and then we'll do Van Jones.
This one is probably going to get 1 million
I
views.
can't stand Van Jones. All right, ladies and gentlemen,
You went way too
what is
far.
going over here? What is going? Why am I doing this?
You keep doing that.
Just let Matt handle.
I just
handle
don't
it.
like the.
There's some other criteria that you have in your mind that I'm not.
It's these two things right here.
Yeah.
These two things.
Right.
I just don't.
But it is aligned. It looks like a straight line.
Okay, now it looks better. Whatever.
Anyway.
I'm fading. I'm fading. I'll tell you, I have some currency.
Hey.
And listen, I'm staying in the race.
That's a convincing.
No, Pauls don't say that.
Okay,
No,
we're
it's-
going to open up the phone lines right now. 646-257-3920. 646-257-3920. I'm the guy.
And no one's saying I'm
I'm the guy who picked the number.
No one's saying that.
I'm the guy who picked the number.
Show
If you
me
say
a
it, there
poll.
wouldn't be a 646-257-3920.
Hey, by the way, you know what
Okay,
that phone number
all right,
stands
let's
for?
go.